So Four Knights of the Apocalypse chapter 143 is out, and man, this really feels like we're entering the third act of this Fairy King's Forest arc, because a lot of stuff is going on, and the family drama has essentially hit its tipping point, and we get basic 100% confirmation of stuff that we all kind of figured out, but it's just nice to see it fully confirmed, as well as setting up the final conflict seemingly of this arc. But before I dive headfirst into things, don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Now then, I know what you guys are here for, so let's jump right into the chapter. Chapter 143 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, titled Tragedy. And I just like how this cover image is literally just Diane and King, as King is holding a baby, which I presume is not baby Nazianz or baby Myrtle. And Diane's like, King, are you nervous? As King says, me? No, never. As he's in his Uncle Fart form, his Fat King form, which is hilarious. Because he goes into that form whenever he's nervous and angsty. So, funny cover image. So we start off after last week where Myrtle runs out of the Fairy King's forest. He takes out his whip and then he begins lashing it at the ground, shouting, Why? Why my father? Why did it have to go to that outsider? Why didn't it go to me? As last week, King brought Nazianz somewhere and gave him the drug of yore, a very special drug that's said to cure curses, illnesses, and revive those who are close to death. And Myrtle saw him give it to Nazianz, as him and Sixtus went to try and ask King for that drug to help Myrtle essentially try and make his body able to survive in the fairy realm. But after hearing King try and give this to Nazianz as a gift, this shattered Myrtle, as he expected his father would care more for him than Nazianz, and he also had suspicions that Nazianz was actually the child that King originally had and that he himself was a changeling. So this more or less confirmed these doubts for him, and so he ran away. But after he does his little outburst, the cloaked mage of chaos shows up stating why they're angry and what brings them to such despair. Myrtle is surprised that this mage is still there, but the mage goes on to say, Don't glare at me. Perhaps we misread each other earlier, but I believe we both stand to benefit. What do you think? Could you lend me your power? Then I will make your wish come true instead. Myrtle tells him that bargaining isn't going to work on him, especially someone like this mage. But the mage then takes off their cloak and says, We've both been rejected by our peers. I think we'd understand each other. As we finally see what this mage looks like, and something I did not expect, apparently it is a two-headed lizard man. One with the head of a seeming dragon, and the other like a turtle with an eye patch. Okay, I won't lie, this is literally the most out of left field design I have seen in Four Knights of the Apocalypse or 7 Deadly Sins. I was not expecting this. I was expecting more of a demonic looking thing, but a two-headed lizard man. I think this is the first time we've seen a lizard man in this series, so hey, another race in this world adds a bit more to the world, I guess. We then essentially get a page of the lizard man basically giving off his lore that he's a pitiful race created by an ancient mage on a whim. That lizard men were once feared as descendants of dragons, but now they're reviled as ugly monsters. Similar to him, as this guy is just a monstrosity among its own kind. He goes on to say how no one likes to live alone, and that no world is willing to accept a sinister-looking lizard man, sorcerer like himself. But he goes on to say that Arthur was different. Arthur offered him a place in Camelot to live, and that Arthur is a true king who offers his hand to all, even the least privileged. Obviously, Myrtle goes on to say that that's not what I heard. I hear the tests all non-humans. But the mage, Kilbegin, goes on to say that it's just a difference in perspective. Arthur really only doesn't like the four races that have constantly tormented the humans with war. Giants, fairies, goddesses, and demons, which it does make sense. And if this is true, maybe Arthur does want a world for all, but based on our glimpse of Camelot, we only saw humans, so perhaps he's only giving this to this one lizard mage, perhaps to use them for their own magical power that they might have. Might have something very unique that Arthur needs, and figured might as well manipulate this one to think that it belongs, and so he could actually keep this power around, for all we know. Because Arthur can be pretty manipulative now, so We just have to wait and see. The mage goes on to say, so returning to my offer, our king is seeking a certain drug of yore passed down by the fairy clan, but they're clamping down on outsiders going into their realm. As I see it, they must have a trap near the entrance that identifies and fends off enemies. Even reaching their king is difficult, much less opening talks with them. So last chapter I neglected to mention this, but based on how Myrtle and Sixus entered and exited the Fairy King's forest, it seems very likely that, well, people could wander into the Fairy King's forest. But it having some sort of trap spell to identify friend from foe does make sense, especially since it was more or less out in the open. So it makes sense that there is some sort of security, and it's not just unguarded, so that is nice to know. Myrtle then has a nervous smile stating, well, sorry, but trying to negotiate won't help you. The Fairy King would never give that drug to a human. Now, Myrtle's playing strong right now. However, he said Fairy King, not my father. So his doubts and his heartbreak is already getting to him. At least that's what I'm getting from the dialogue. And the mage notices this and goes on to say, lend me a hand. My king needs that drug to help those who suffer in his domain. So this is definitely what Arthur is going for with the drug of yore, but for what exact purpose and how people in his domain are suffering, I have no clue. Maybe it's to make himself stronger and to make the illusions in Camelot more solidified, so that perhaps they can even exit Camelot, or maybe make them more into real human beings. Who knows? He then asks Myrtle for his help in order to dispel all the anger in his heart if he helps him. As we then cut to a field in the fairy realm, as Diane is running around scaring a couple of deer, as she's trying to find King, as she is incredibly worried. She then sees him walking towards her, as she is incredibly worried, stating that she doesn't know what to do. Apparently, Tiore is starting to piece things together about Naziennes, and she thinks Myrtle is not too far behind. But King just looks up at her, flies, and plants his head in her chest. I'm gonna be honest, I would do the same.
Hey, yo.
Don't look at me like that. We all know if we had a giant girlfriend like Diane, we would do the exact same thing King would do whenever we're upset. And if you say otherwise, then you're lying to yourself. But moving on. King is literally just unloading all of his sadness with Diane right now, saying that he's hated, he'll never recover from this, and Diane is wondering what King is talking about, who hates him. As he says, it's Naziennes. He called him thick-headed, in bad taste. He said he angers him, and he had the biggest look of scorn on his face. And King thought giving him the drug would, make things right. It would be the right thing to do. And now look at things. As, at the end of last chapter, Naziennes literally berated, and rightfully so, King's decision to give him the drug of yore after 2 years, and even said, you're an idiot, why would you give this to me instead of one of your sons that desperately needs something like that right now? And this is classic King. He gets worked up and in his own head, gets a bit of tunnel vision when it comes to the people he cares about, but tends to fumble the ball when it matters a lot of the time, or screw things up, to the point where the opposite effect happens. This has kind of been King's whole spiel for a long time. But as he tells Diane about the drug, Diane is just shocked and like, didn't you say that you would keep quiet about the drug of yore? And King's like, well, yeah, but I knew how hard he was working, and I thought just giving him the drug would be trampling all over his efforts. But he just says flat out, every single day he trudges out of the tunnel of whispers, shoulders slumped down. And I just couldn't stand seeing my own child like that. 100% confirming. I mean, we kinda got that confirmation last chapter anyway, but from King's mouth, Naziennes is 100% their child, their missing child, their firstborn. I know I'm kind of milking this, but I'm just stating that this is 100% confirmed by King and Diane themselves. 100% flat out. So, no doubts there. If there were any other, none of us had any doubts. But yeah, he literally wasn't going to give him the drug at all, but he just caved in after seeing all of Naziennes' hard work over 2 years and just couldn't stand just having him do this seemingly for nothing, and wanted to try helping him out now. So, bless King's heart. He fumbles it, but he's trying his best to be a good dad, even though Naziennes doesn't know he's his dad. Gotta respect the effort, but the guy is kind of thick-headed a lot of the time. But they are then ambushed by their kids saying, "So it's true," as they confront their parents. King's asking them why they're here, and it's there that Fao told them. Last chapter, Pao overheard Tiore and the Ant's conversation, and so we all kind of figured that they would end up going to tell the rest of the kids. Belt goes on to say that it's no wonder that they were so oddly close to Nazienz, who is a human. And Zana says that she can't believe that Nazienz is actually their brother the entire time. But Sixtus gets down to the point and confronts his parents. Says, "If all this is true, why did you keep the drug from Myrtle, who you raised as your own son, and instead just give it to some guy you happen to be related to?" King says it's not like that. Heck, I tried giving it to him, but he refused it. He then asks Sixtus how he even knows about it. Sixtus looks at his dad square in the face and tells King and the Anne that him and Myrtle saw everything. They heard what King and Nazienz were talking about. As this shocks King and the Anne, is now Myrtle, their secret is out to everybody, especially to Myrtle. Really quick, I just want to say this right here. I think Sixtus, the way Nakaba is just writing him, second oldest, great brother. I just feel like Sixtus is being written as the king who never fucked up. Essentially, like the one who never fumbles the bag a lot of the time. Which I find kind of funny. At least that's where I'm getting this from. And Sixtus right now was one of my favorites, as we got the most time with him outside of Tiore, and I'm liking what Nakaba's doing with him. We then cut back to Nazienz in his little workshop in the Fairy Realm, as he is still very pissed off at King from what just happened, and goes on to say, "Now I gotta bring Percival back, not because of him, but for me. I gotta wake him up for me." As Nazienz then notices Tiore kind of walking in the middle of the forest, kind of a bit in a daze, but then she looks up and notices Myrtle. She then goes on to say that, "I know I chided you about being too big for your britches, but like Nazienz says, you're so kind to everyone. I know all your good traits. So no matter what, you're still our big brother, alright?" And this is something that I like, because Tiore basically pieced everything together over the last 2 to 3 chapters and was very concerned for Myrtle the most, because she didn't want anything to change. He's her older brother, and she doesn't want to lose him, and she just wants to stay a family like they've always been. And now after seeing him, just starts to kind of unload on him and tell him that everything's going to be okay, he doesn't have to worry, we're still a family. But Myrtle gets up to her and just says Nazienz and all who sided with him, as he then grabs Tiore by the throat with all his strength, as the final page of the chapter showcases a demonic looking Myrtle stating, "All have to pay. Do you want to take everything from me?" As he begins strangling Tiore with all his strength, veins popping all over his body, with black, dark eyes, as it seems that his negative emotions are taking control over him, and it's most likely what that Chaos Mage did to him that is making him hurt his family. And that ends the chapter. So, gotta be honest, family drama, I'm liking it. They're doing a good job with what we're given. I like Sixtus taking the initiative as the eldest brother in the room right now, and thinking about Myrtle, thinking about their family, and confronting his dad over his decisions. We got the reveal of who the Chaos Mage is. In my honest opinion, underwhelming. I was kind of hoping it would be someone like Morgan Le Fay, or a previous character that we grew to know over 7 Deadly Sins that is now back. A lot of people had Grey Road as a potential character, but unfortunately, if we're gonna get Grey Road again, it'll probably be sometime later down the road, maybe as a Guardian of Camelot or whatever. But, Two-Headed Lizard Man, a nice twist. Did not see that coming. But we still have to see what this guy could do at all. And manipulating Myrtle's negative emotions is most likely one of the main things it's doing. The family dynamics are shifting. Everybody knows the secret that King and Diane have been keeping for years, and now we're finally getting the fallout for it with this proper build-up. And I also kind of like that Diane had no idea that King was going to just give the drug of yore to Nazienz, as he never talked to her about it, and apparently they more or less seemingly agreed that nobody would know about the drug whatsoever. So, King, I love you, man, but you're gonna do this a very important decision, especially if it involves one of your kids. You gotta tell your wife about it. Also, it's about something very precious to the realm that the two of you are protecting and ruling over. Kinda seems like something that you would want to go over with your queen. But this king does not think things through a lot of the time, especially when it comes to the people he cares about. Love the guy for it. He still fumbles the bag. And now a possessed Myrtle is strangling his sister. So, not the best thing going on in the fairy realm right now for this family. But hey, things will work out most likely, and right now it's being set up for Nazianz to essentially save Myrtle and help him, as perhaps, hopefully, reconcile things and finally truly be a part of the family that he has essentially been a part of for a long time. This is a Nazianz focused story, and I'm liking what we're getting with him so far. Hopefully, things develop a bit more, and we see what's going on, what'll happen with Myrtle. Will he join Chaos? Will he be a pawn, or will he be free? I got no clue. All we know is there is something that's going to happen that will not be good with the fallout of this arc. But that's all I got to say. What did you guys think of this chapter? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comments section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I make here on the channel and shows you want to see more. Look, I'm just saying, if I had a giant wife or girlfriend like Diane, if I was upset, I would 100% bury my face in her chest, like King. I am not a degenerate, I'm just stating facts.